What's up, everybody? This is Kevin Orris doing another interview in the Primal Polarity series. Today, I'm going to bring on an amazing speaker in this space, Elsa, who's going to teach us all about how to date like a pro. Elsa Morek is a thought leader, speaker, and amazing mentor for on how to date intelligently with skill, with power, with grace. This is going to be a great conversation. If you're joining in, tell us where you're coming in from. There she is. How are you?
Hi, Kevin. I'm great. How are you?
Amazing. How is it over there? You're in Miami, right?
I am. It's pretty awesome. I love it here. Let me see if I can show you the view. We got Brickell right in front of me,
Nice.
the heart of the city.
How does it stack up against Austin, Texas?
It's just different. Like when I first got here, I was like, I'm never going back to Austin. The first week or so, I loved the fashion, the music. I speak Spanish, so there's like a bunch of Spanish around me all the time. Well, there still is. And just the palm trees and the beach. It was all very novel. So I
Right.
was really enjoying like being in a new energy. But now that I've been here for almost 2 months, I'm starting to miss Austin. I'm starting to miss like the friendliness, the very homey vibe.
Right.
Um, just like the more laid back aspect of living in Austin. So yeah, I think I'll
Sure.
bring me what I acquired here in terms of like new personality traits, and then I'll bring them with me to Austin.
Nice. You can't beat that southern comfort out there in Austin,
Yeah.
Texas. But also, yeah, I know Florida is a vibe as well. Um, so excited to have you, Elsa. We met
Likewise.
briefly, and we've been to Jordan's wedding and a few places I've seen you, and so I'm yeah, a big fan of your work, and I'm excited for this interview today. And just to kick us off, for people that are meeting you here and will watch this replay or watch it later, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Elsa, and I am a published author and also a dating coach for men. So my specialty is turning men who are insecure and just your typical nice guys, and they're tired of chasing women. I turn those men into confident men who get to choose their pick.
Amazing. And I'm curious, like, is this something you wanted to do and were coaching and mentoring for many years, or how did you get into this specific niche, if you will?
Yeah, I always say that it found me, and it sounds so cliche, but it really did. I knew that I wanted to work for myself. I was in breakdown one day in IKEA. I was 24. I just moved to Austin, and I was in total breakdown because I was catching up with a friend on the phone. And basically, I said something along the lines of, why is it that like my dating life is so easy and predictable, but my career is a hot mess? Like I have no idea what I'm doing with my career. And if only I could transfer like the ease and the flow of my dating life into my career, like I would have an amazing life. And then he's like, then be a dating coach.
Simple, right?
He's like, there are so many people that can't say that. They can't say that they have so much ease and flow and predictability in their dating life. So if that's what you're experiencing, you should definitely help other people with that. And I thought it was like the stupidest comment ever. I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, as if I'm going to be able to charge people for something that I've done my entire life for free. And like my mom, I grew up in Japan, and
Oh,
I went,
wow.
yeah, an army school, military school, well, an American military school that was on the base there. And I had all these friends, and like every day after school, I would legit be on the phone until like 11 p.m., 12 midnight, just giving my friends advice. I thought this is what friends did. Like I'd be on one phone call with a friend, I'd give her all this dating advice, it would hang up. A little bit later, I would talk to another friend. And then my mom would be overhearing everything. And, she was aware that my grades were not the best. So she was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you on the phone with your friends for 6 hours? You need to be taking care of your stuff and your life. But honestly, it just invigorated me. Like, it was so exciting to have people come to me and be like, what do I say to this guy? Like, what do I do? He hasn't texted me in a few days. Like, what? And it was so fun for me to be able to like help them strategize and understand like why this person is pulling away and what they should do to get them back. And I have friends like years later who got married and had children that I kind of lost touch with come to me and say, hey, you gave me this quote one time and it really stuck with me and I really followed it. And I went from being in one situationship to the next to like actually getting a guy to marry me and build a family with me. And that felt really good. Like having these, I would just say things, like I would just kind of preach, just being myself. And then to know that someone actually like took that, wrote it down and lived by it, and then actually got a real life result from it was very exciting. So anyway, this guy tells me I should be a dating coach. He's a friend of mine. I tell him that's like the stupidest thing I've heard, with all respect, you know, with all due respect. I appreciate you trying to support me, but like that sounds absolutely ridiculous. And I just basically come back to it 3 years later. So I had this whole ego around it where I was like, I just can't do it. It just sounds really dumb. So I did a few other jobs. And then at one point I was like, well, I want to kind of know what this coaching thing is all about, because someone had planted that seed in college when I told them that I was thinking of becoming a therapist. He was like, oh, well, have you ever heard of coaching? And I was like, no. He's like, okay, well, before you go and like you go down the therapy route, which obviously requires, you know, after like it requires education after a bachelor's degree. He's like, before you go on that route, just, I want to plant this seed of life coaching, because my brother's wife does it. She's very successful with it and she loves it. And I think that people who are drawn to therapy are also drawn to coaching. That was the first time I had ever heard about it. Came back to it a few years later and I was like, okay, dating coach, maybe not, but I'll try life coaching. So I got a life coach certification that was accredited with like whatever, the ICF, like the only organization currently that regulates coaching. And they were telling us as part of our training, at some point you need to niche down. So don't like just stay a life coach, find a niche that works for you. And I actually don't agree with that anymore. I think some people are awesome life coaches and that's what they should do. But at the time it was like, you need to find something more specific, whether it's executive coaching, career coaching, whatever. Long story short, I went through all the different categories in my head. And I was just like, none of these seem like things that I could realistically charge for in terms of what I know and my experience and my expertise.
Sure.
So I finally hired a business coach because I felt like I was all over the place. She had me write an inventory list of 100 things I'm good at and putting stars next to things that I think people would pay me for. And it kept coming back to dating. It was just like staring me right in the face. I was like, yeah, this is the one thing where I really feel like I could take someone from point A to point B and actually have like a process. So I got over my ego and I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to start telling people I'm a dating coach and just see what happens. That's literally what happened. Overnight, I came out on Instagram as a dating coach. I was in San Francisco. I went out one night and people would ask me what I did. And I just started saying, I'm a dating coach. And then just like would see their responses. And then from there, I kept iterating. And then a publisher came and asked me to write a book for men. This was last year. When the book came out, I had to promote it. So naturally, I started making more videos for men to promote the book. And then my following just like exploded. So I was like, wait a second. I think I very specifically need to be a dating coach for men. Because this seems like men seem to be really resonating with what I'm saying. And I had already had guys, I was promoting myself as a dating coach for women, but I had a lot of men in my DMs be like, you know, do you also work with men? And I would always redirect them to someone else. And then when the book came out, I was like, hold on, maybe I actually can work with men. And then I've learned since that was really what I was meant to do. Because ever since I started working with men, everything clicked.
Right. Gotta love that product market fit, and when the niche finds you, right? And you don't have to like force it or, you know, try to find it in a contrived way, which I think obviously really blessed. And I've had similar experiences with men's work and also with relationship work. And I mean, I have so many questions for you also. We're just kind of free flow. I mean, first one is, you know, since you've been in the space for a while, even unofficially, and specifically to 2022 and like, you know, the current environment, why is it so hard to date now? What are the patterns that you see? Because, you know, you don't really hear about this. You know, everyone's always like, you know, love is what it is. But specifically now, I hear from hundreds of people, I'm sure you do too, that are like, dating is harder now. This is like, seems to be a common idea. Why do you think that is?
It's funny because I actually don't think that dating is harder now. We make it harder, frankly, because we have so many more options, and I put in them in quotation marks because they're not actually true options. I was just having this conversation with my mom actually on the balcony. Like, it's so easy to think that people are replaceable when you can just get on a dating app and be on the next date in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15, depending on who you are and how well you do on apps. But like, there's this false feeling of abundance. And I don't mean that to be negative, because I do believe in abundance and I don't think people should settle. But at the same time, I do think that we live in a world where there's a plethora of options. And, you know, we live in an Amazon Prime era where I can literally think of, you know what? I want a bright green dress with feathers. And I will literally search that in Amazon and I will find that. Exactly that, the thing that I literally just thought up. And then it'll be at my doorstep by tomorrow. That's how we treat dating. That's how a lot of people treat dating. Like, oh, if you give me the ick on this date in any way, like this new term of like, this person gave me the ick. It could be the way someone like laughs. It could be the way someone dresses. It could be something so dumb and so like changeable and just not even important. And people are just like, you know what? I have more options. I don't need to say yes to this. And I think that that has created this very flaky culture where people don't feel accountable. You know, if they don't feel like going on the date, even though they already RSVP'd, they just don't want to go because they just don't feel it. They can cancel last minute. They don't know you. They never met you. They don't feel accountable to you. And then and it's just like that does something to people. Like, if you put that out, that's what you're going to get back. So many people who come to me and they, you know, complain about being ghosted or this or that. I'm like, have you ever ghosted anyone? And they get quiet. Have you ever flaked on anyone? And have you ever gone on a date and then felt like the person didn't really match what you were looking for, and then you never communicated it? You kind of just disappeared and like let it fizzle out. So no judgment if you have, but just understand that like what you put out, you get back. So everyone's kind of everyone what they don't want done to themselves, because it takes a lot more maturity to see people as the full picture and to say, yeah, you know, maybe I'm not crazy about these one or two things, but like there's all these other amazing qualities, and this is someone that I can build with. And then once I get another option, okay, yeah, that's very exciting, but like I actually have something very special with this person and I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to keep working on it even when it gets tough. So that's part of it. You know, obviously it's also harder to communicate and be honest. It's harder to say, you know, I enjoyed our date, but I'm not really feeling it. That takes maturity. It takes courage. Some people aren't willing to do that. So I think it's just the illusion of options. I don't even think that they're real options, because there are so many people that might give you attention, but they're not actually a fit.
Sure.
So yeah.
I think you nailed it. It's part of like digital culture and app culture and like social media culture, where there's just tons of men and women always available on your screen. And it does give us an illusion of abundance, but the quality partners, of course, are scarce, so to speak. You know, I do believe that there's someone for everyone. Like, everyone can be happy in relationships. Obviously, I think that's true. But with your clients also, do you recommend using dating apps? Is that like a primary tool? And if so, like how to use them with integrity, let's say, to avoid some of these traps?
Right. It depends on the person. So I go by the 80-20 principle, meaning that 80% of results come from 20% of your efforts. My first task with every man I work with is to find his 80-20. Like, if you are someone who you're constantly going to work conferences, you're always traveling, you're a part of several different masterminds that put you in front of like women who think like you, and you have a lot of social exposure because of your career and your lifestyle, you may never need to touch a dating app. We may just need to work on your social skills when you're in those environments. And then we also may need to work on your discernment, because you are a busy person. We want to make sure that we're not sending you on 5 dates a week, but maybe, you know, 1 date a week that with someone that you've done a really great job at qualifying because you're busy and you have things going on. If you are a younger college student who like works from home, does online classes, you never get out in the real world, you just don't really have a lot of social exposure, and your lifestyle is super contained and you don't see a lot of people on the daily, then we may need to get you on dating apps. You know, I work with a guy right now, like, who is a dentist. He has his own practice. He works like 12, 14-hour days. This person doesn't have time to go out and meet people in the real world. Like, if he's going to commit to his career and he's going to actualize it, then he is not, by virtue, he's trading off time out in the real world. So for someone like that, yeah, I recommend getting on a dating app, because where else are you? And then when you're on an app, in terms of how to use it with integrity, I think first of all, it's important to remember not everyone does well on dating apps. So unfortunately, like, again, a dating app is a low investment activity. You're not accountable. You are judging people solely based on what you see, not actually really who they are. They're just showing you this 2D version of them that could or could not be accurate. And because it's a low investment activity, like, sometimes the results aren't that great.
Sure.
So, well, you know, it doesn't take a lot of energy to be sitting down and like kind of aimlessly swiping. So it's very different than like walking up to someone at a party and starting a conversation with them. So because of that, some people just don't really do as well. Like, there are some people who don't match the typical aesthetic that does well on dating apps, because, you know, something else about dating culture today is a lot of it is kind of shallow. Like, there's this message of like, I want someone who looks a certain way, is a certain height, makes a certain amount of money, and I want him to just come like that, ready to go. And like, on dating apps, you can set your preferences to where you're not even seeing anyone who doesn't fit that category. So like, a lot of men will spend on dating apps and just not get matches. And for those men, I don't tell them to go despair. I tell them to work on their social skills and get out in the real world. So if you are going to use a dating app, like, make sure you're giving yourself the best shot. Take professional pictures, have really catchy prompts, be like responsive, and also don't become pen pals with everyone. Like, I have my follow a pretty strict script. They can obviously optimize it to their own personality, but like, the intention is, let's get off the app and actually meet in person. So yeah, and in terms of using it with integrity, just be honest. Like, if you go on a date and you're just not really feeling it, just make sure that you communicate like your intentions, what you're looking for, all that. Yeah, and then that's what you'll get back.
Right. I think it's very well said. And, you know, the piece about professional photos and presenting yourself in a really powerful way and putting in a lot of intention into that is huge.
Yeah.
I've seen clients get really successful results from apps that normally it was just kind of a dopamine thing, right? Like Instagram, just, oh, next. And also, like you said, the whole goal is to get off the app as soon as possible. It's not to, you know, have a bunch of chats going and spin plates. You know, I think this is one of the dangers and pitfalls that I think a lot of men fall into if they study pickup artistry or they go into some more of those communities. Which on one level is teaching them good social skills, but on the other level, the way it tells them to treat dating, to me, just accentuates some of these problems. And for men specifically, also, because you're specializing in that, you know, what are some of those themes that, you know, men are really struggling with? Is it meeting high quality women, or is it more like the close, so to speak, like actually extending the date and actually getting in person and creating a long-term relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think meeting women is the problem for anyone. I believe that the main problem is that they don't know what to do when they meet someone. So like, there are beautiful women everywhere. I mean, they're at the gym, they're at the cafe, they're on the streets walking. Like, it's not hard to meet attractive women. And what happens is, though, they have a conversation in their mind that paralyzes them from doing anything about it. So they'll tell themselves, she probably has a boyfriend, she probably got hit on a bunch of times today and doesn't want to talk to me. Oh, she has her headphones in and she just doesn't want to look really open, which the last one is actually true sometimes. And I do teach that to men. We don't want to be like going up to random women who do not want to be approached and are giving you all the signs of, I don't want to be approached. But there are so many more women who are putting out these subtle cues of like, I'm open for connection, I'm open for connection. And like a lot of men don't pick up on them. So they reject themselves before they ever have a chance to get rejected by women. And then it's like the feedback loop of, oh, women just don't want to be talked to these days. Like no one wants to be approached. Like that's so not true. But they lack the know-how to recognize when a woman is giving cues. And then they also lack the confidence to do something about it when the time comes. And then from there, they also lack the skills to, yes, segue that interaction into actually getting a date. So a lot of times what does happen is fine, they'll get themselves to a point where they start a conversation, but they're not in the conversation. They're thinking in their mind, when do I ask for the number? When do I ask for the number? When do I ask for the number? Oh, is it now? Is it now? And like, they're not even listening. They're just like in their mind, they're like very outcome driven. And then when they do finally ask for the number, it's like kind of awkward, kind of just like not authentic. The conversation was kind of dry. So they get turned down or they do get the number because a lot of women don't like to reject men. And she never shows up. She never responds. Because they were just so focused on the wrong thing and they went about it in a way that was very inorganic.
Totally. Yeah, these seem to me to be like some of the pivotal moments, right? It's the approach itself, getting the number, right? Which is, again, you beautifully expressed how that becomes an issue because it's like, oh, I gotta get it. And it's like, and it's all these awkward pickup lines or whatever. Now, once the man has her number, let's talk about texting and actually, call it escalation or like deepening the intimacy without making it pen pals and getting friend zoned. Because I know multiple people have already commented that, and I hear this one all the time from men and women. Yeah,
that's a great question. And it's good to hear. It's interesting to hear that men and women both struggle with it. Because obviously I'm on the men's side. So that's interesting to hear that women also face that. So I said earlier that when men approach women and they're super outcome driven, that it takes them out of the moment. And this is where I want to offer an expansion of that. I believe there is a difference between being desperate and being determined. So, and actually a friend, shout out to my friend Matt, who helped me recognize that. But there's a difference. So you can be determined to get someone's number and determined to take them out on a date, but not be desperate. Because when you're desperate to just get the number or to just get the date, you put off this energy that repels it. We know this. We're both like very much into the energetic world. So I know that you and I understand that language. But at the same time, if you're super passive about it, because you're like, I just don't want to be attached to the outcome. I just don't want to try to generate an outcome. I'm just going to be super unattached. That's great. But like, you have to find a way, which I know it's a lot easier said than done, but you have to find a way to be very low attachment, but very high involvement. Mm-hmm. So you're still determined to get the outcome that you desire, which is to go on a date with this person, but you have to somehow also remove the attachment from it. So, because if you're passive, which a lot of men I work with fall into, you end up just having a conversation, but it goes absolutely nowhere. Like you learn where she was born, where she likes to eat, what name her dog is, but then it just out. And then she ends up going on a date with a guy that was bold. And that, 3 texts in was like, all right, well, what do you have going on Thursday night? Like, let's go out. And then you wonder, like, what the hell did I just do? Like, I got to know this whole person's life story over fucking text. And like, if you're not determined to make the outcome happen, it's not going to just like create itself. So there's a way to be very intentional. And this is what I teach. There's a way to be very intentional where you have the outcome in mind. So yes, you're having a conversation. Yes, you're building trust. Essentially what you're doing over text is you're building trust and likability. Just a little bit of trust, enough trust to where she's like, okay, I'm going to come back home safely if I go out with you. That's what you need to achieve through a text conversation. That's pretty much it. Anything above that is a bonus. But the main thing that you're trying to achieve is like, I'm a normal guy. I'm a good person. If you come out with me, you're going to come home safely. I'm not a creep. I have friends. I have I have family. I'm vouched for by the world and I'm safe to go out with. If you have that working for you, that's pretty much all you need to happen in that short text exchange. She already saw you in person. She already knows what you look like. This is assuming that you got the number in person. She already saw you in person. She already saw you what you look like. If it's over a dating app, same thing. She saw your pictures. She knows what you look like. So at this point, you don't really need to showcase too much of your personality. You just need to like make her feel like it's safe to go on a date. From that point, whatever you want to do beyond that, if you want to learn how to banter a little better, if you want to flirt a little bit, that's all great. That's level 2. Level 1 is just get the number and have a decent enough conversation that makes her feel safe to go out with you.
Yeah, I love how simple this is. This is obviously catered for the masculine mind, which can be very linear and outcome oriented, which is what's amazing about the masculine mind. But I'm sure a lot of men, as myself in the past and male clients I've been with, can really mind fuck themselves when texting and often get friend zoned for the reasons you just described. Now, this one's hotly contested depending on who you ask. You're on a date, you take her out to dinner, for the gentlemen out there. Who pays and why? And, you know, this is kind of a canned question, but if she wants to split it, does that change the dynamic in your view, or do you see this play out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always say that there are 2 parts of me. There's dating coach Elsa, and then there's woman Elsa. Like just Elsa as a woman.
Right.
And I do not project my Elsa woman preferences on dating coaching because I think that there are all kinds of women in the world, and there are all kinds of cultures in the world, and there are all kinds of different schemas that make sense depending on where you live in the world. Elsa, the woman, prefers that a man pays for the date because it makes me feel like I'm in my feminine, like you're taking care of it. You are the one in charge. You're the man with the plan. And something, even right now, like talking, like my energy shifted a little bit. My energy when a man just has it handled. And now, that being said, I was raised to always offer, and I always do, and it's completely like, I mean it, it's genuine. So I do take out my card, I do offer, and I'm extremely grateful when someone does take care of the bill, but that is my preference. Like when someone does that, they just won themselves a bunch of brownie points. Now, dating coach Elsa believes that women are different, and there seems to be kind of a, I wouldn't really say cultural consensus, but there seems to be some kind of consensus in some circles of people that if the woman asks you out, like whoever does the asking takes care of the bill. Again, woman Elsa is not crazy about that, but as dating coach Elsa, if that feels appropriate, like if she pushed for the date, she chose the spot, she told you to meet her there, and the date went really well, and the bill comes, and she was like already expecting to pay for it, and she has like, it just, you can tell that she sincerely is like, no, I picked the place, I picked the date, I picked the time, I want to take care of it. Like this was my treat, this was my idea and my treat. I think that that's fine, as long as, you know, the man finds a way to return it and also maintains his masculine frame throughout the date. So yes, she can pay for it, but like, how are you maintaining your masculine frame? Are you opening her chair for her? Are you like finding the host, getting a table, like also contribute in ways that show her that you know how to take charge? And if she seems like adamant about taking care of the bill, that's fine. Like, that's totally fine. I know that makes some women feel empowered. When I was younger and I used to pay for myself, I used to feel empowered. Like when I would go on a date with a guy several times and then I would pay for something finally, like I'd take care of everything, even though he was never going to let me do that if I just left it to his own accord, I would be proud of myself. I'd be like, that felt good. Like I just took care of everything. So
Sure.
I think that some women do enjoy that. And like, that's totally fine. So at the same time, I want to cover the splitting the bill thing. And then if she offers to split. So woman Elsa, if I offer to split the bill with you, I'm not interested. That's my way of saying we're friends.
There it is.
Yeah, we're friends. I don't want you to feel like you had to take care of this because I'm already clear that we're just going to be friends. So in order to make it very clear that this is not a date, I'm going to go ahead and take care of my share. So that is my way of communicating non-verbally that this is just friendly for me.
Right. Sure. A ton of people can relate to that.
And if the man asks me to split, again, woman Elsa. So my mom, from a very young age, was like, if he splits with you, split after that. Not because my mom believes that it's not okay for women to contribute or any of that. My mom's a physician. She's always contributed financially to our household. That is not the way she thinks. But in her mind, she's like, I want you to be with someone generous. I want you to be with someone who wants to take care of you and wants to take care of things, especially when it's the first. I want you to have that experience of just being taken out and being taken care of. So I've had like maybe one guy in my history, maybe two, ask me to split, and I never saw them after that. I just kind of always stuck to that rule.
Right. I mean, I'm a little old school. Both man and coach Kevin would advise the masculine to pay, and that's because like it's not about the money. That's what people get mind fucked about. It's like, oh, well, we want to be egalitarian and da 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 da. And this is my opinion, though. It's not about the money. It's about the energy and it's about leadership. Like, imagine you're out with the boys and you're watching the game. I mean, next round's on me. You wouldn't even blink. You know, you drop a couple hundred buying the guy's beers, but suddenly you're on a date with a beautiful woman you're interested in, and you're gonna ask her to split the bill. It's like, right. To me, it doesn't make any sense. And obviously, as you said, some women who are still in their very much in their feminine energy love to pay as a token of like, hey, like, you know, this was my treat. It's empowering. So I do get that perspective. I think it's probably less common. And I love that you brought that up. Someone was asking, and they already guessed my next question because you said it. You mentioned a few things, but what is masculine frame? How do men create that on a date?
Yeah. So I see the masculine frame as, first of all, focused on the outcome, committed to the outcome. So you get to a restaurant, you're not just kind of like waiting around, staring, you know, having a very nervous. Make sure that she is comfortable, she has her seat, everything. Like, you're the one leading. You're the one coming up to the hostess and saying, hi, we're looking for a table for two. Like, you know, we'd like it in a quiet area, whatever. Like, you're the one who's taking charge. You're not waiting for her to take charge. Then once you're seated, all that, like, you're the one who's, you're both ordering, but like, it's the way that you direct your energy. You direct your energy in such a way where you're the one who is creating an experience for her. You're asking questions, you're deeply listening. You are putting your hand on her lower back when you're walking. You're kind of like guiding her to the door. You are, you know, if like someone's coming in, you're kind of like moving her, like protecting her. When you're walking on the sidewalk, you're walking on the side of the street so that she can walk on the safer side. You're opening her door. These tiny little gestures create an experience for a woman where she feels like she's being protected and provided for, which is a very instinctual need that women have. So you've already taken care of the bill, so you provided, and now you're also providing this experience, and you're also protecting her. You're protecting her from physical harm, and that's how you do that. Like, it's an energy. It's the energy of, I am going to take on the role of the person who's in charge of outcomes. I'm going to order the Uber. I'm going to make sure that we're driving in the right direction. That way she can focus on the conversation. She can focus on her lipstick, her hair. She can focus on like just being in her feminine flow, which being feminine to me is just being very present, being unaware of time, So you're kind of just like, la, 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 la. Like, I'm, you know, not dumb. That's not to say that it's dumb. It's just that, like, you're in the moment.
Flow, and expression and flow, and just surrender. Yeah.
You're focused on how the drink tastes. You're focused on how good the meal is. The man is focused on that too, but he's also conscious of like, where's the food? It's been a while now. Where's the check? We've been waiting. You know, like he's also in mind of that. Oh, we have our next reservation. How much time do we have to get there? I should probably order the Uber. I should probably make sure that like the Uber knows where we are. Like when the man takes care of all that, she's able to just be like, just kind of like enjoying herself. And powerful women, especially, who are usually that for themselves all day long, they love it when someone Thursday night, here's the address, 8 p.m. I'll pick you up. Like that is just like, oh, thank you. I don't have to make more decisions.
Right. And it's crazy because, I mean, you just said it, you described the perfect, you know, prime example, a woman who's an entrepreneur, corporate, you know, she's a boss babe. All day she's in her masculine, creating outcomes, holding frame for employees, clients, customers. And deeply underneath that is the longing of the feminine heart to, as you said, be in that flow, be surrendered to his leadership. It doesn't mean that, you know, you're ditzy or not powerful. It's extremely powerful to be in your feminine energy. Right. And that's the kind of juiciness that's going to help him thrive on that date, talking to you and seeing you and admiring you and also having fun together, right? Having the experience together. Because if she's fully in her feminine right. and he's holding the masculine frame, that creates a good date where there's a lot of, you know, intimacy that can be created. So is there a way also that you teach men to like progress on dating? Like, is there, I'm sure there's not rules like per se, but guidelines on, you know, when to become physical, like when to go in for the kiss, when to invite someone over, things like that. Like, how does that look for clients?
Definitely. I also wanted to say one last thing about power. I learned this recently and I found it fascinating. So to submit actually means that you have power, but you willingly choose to yield to someone else. And I thought that was very interesting because the word submissive gets like tossed around a lot in society, and it's often seen light when it comes to women, like, oh, why would she's so submissive. And I've actually learned that in order to be submissive, you actually have to have power first. So a woman submissive is a woman who has power, but she chooses consciously to defer leadership to someone else. And when I heard that, I thought it was such a turning point for me, because I realized that actually it's a superpower to be able to submit to a man, because you're actually saying, I could pay for this myself. I could bring myself here. I could figure this all out, but I'm letting you do it instead.
Which some would argue is obviously co-equal to the masculine power, but in our modern society, submission can be the hardest thing to do, which also gives it some real power, especially when a woman does it from that place of love and like she's really powerful. What happens when she chooses that? I mean, a lot of men out there will know those are the most radiant, beautiful women that are the highest quality.
Exactly. It's magic happens. The man feels like a man, you know, and I know that that's very controversial to say nowadays, but like he gets to feel like, oh, wow, she really trusts me. She looks up to me as a leader. I feel supported. Men really need to feel supported. I've learned that. There's a few like keywords that I always hear this men say. I need to feel supported. I need to feel supported. She's passionate. Men love passionate women who support them. And when a woman is willing to submit her power, she makes him feel supported. She makes him feel like she trusts him to handle it. And as a result, he handles it. But yeah.
They have to come together.
Exactly. So I'll circle back to that question about progression on a date. Yes, I do teach men how to progress things on a date. I will say that it's very case dependent. There's no like one size fits all. Like once you've been on the date for 45 minutes, now is the right time to put your hand on her thigh. Now that it's an hour and a half, now would be a good time to put your hand, around her shoulder. Now that you're dropping her off at her car, this would be a good time to lean in for the kiss. I wish it were that simple, because then we could just, like outline it and then all that, and we'd be good. But that's not really how human interaction works. It's very nuanced, and it like highly depends on the situation, the energy. And this is why when I work with people, I work with them very closely. We're not just meeting for sessions. They also have me pretty much in their back pocket. They can text me, they can send me audio messages, because like the reality is it's not cookie cutter. You could be on a date with 6 hours. She could really like you and really be feeling you, but she doesn't want to make out. You know, maybe she's in public and she's like, no, I have friends here at this party. And like, that's just like not something I'm comfortable with. And then you're going to start, you might tell yourself a story of, oh, she's not interested. Like she just wants to be friends, but like she's actually being completely sincere. I just like don't want to make out in public. Like this just makes me uncomfortable. At the same time, you could go on a date with a woman for 3 hours and you see all the signs are there. She's laughing, she's making eye contact. You know, you put her hand on her thigh, she didn't really budge, things seem good. But then you go in for the kiss and she's like, oh wait, no. Like that's not what's happening here. Unfortunately, like it's just, there's not one size fits all. It's very situation dependent and it's kind of like a case by case basis, but generally speaking, just so that they can work with something, you should always aim to have some form of physical touch on a date. Because if there's no physical touch and there's no flirtation, you don't have a date. You have an interview.
Yeah.
So there should always be physical touch and flirtation. Physical touch is going to greatly depend on the culture the woman is from. It's going to greatly depend on the country you live in. Like it's not one size fits all. In some cultures that is very unacceptable and you will not be touching her much on the first date. But generally speaking, and I'm mostly talking to a Western audience, like you need to aim for some kind of touch. So the easiest way to do that is the beginning of the date, go for a long hug. Go for a nice long hug. Like eliminate that touch barrier. That's the easiest way you can do it. You're literally greeting her. So go for that hug, make it a little longer. And then from there, when you're on the date, you need to create opportunities to flirt. So whether that's maintained eye contact, complimenting her on her physical features, making a joke that kind of has a playful undertone, like you need to find ways to break it from just like, oh, where do you live? Where are you from? What do you do? How long have you been doing that? How do you like that? Like there needs to be that. Otherwise, she'll just be on autopilot the entire time. And you'll just be another guy who pays for her meal and then never hears from her again.
Right. Yeah, I love how you phrase that. And the physical body language and signaling of the desire is so powerful. And I wonder if you can go into this a little bit, because I know a lot of men already in the chat here are like, you know, how do I know? Or like, what are the signals? And like you said, it's case by case and nuanced because she could be giving all the signals, textbook signals, but she's actually not open to physicality or escalation. So from the male perspective, as you're working with men, do you see the feminine as signaling desire, and then the man has to basically clarify and communicate and move into that? And is that how the dynamic usually works?
Yeah, I think it's super easy for women to have a good conversation. So to all the men out there who think the date went well because the conversation was great, that does not mean the date went well. All my female friends, we like, I've heard them say this so many different times. I could talk to a rock. That is how a lot of women feel.
Sure.
Like I could literally talk to a rock. So just because she's deeply listening and she's laughing and she's asking good questions doesn't automatically mean she's interested in you. A lot of women can have great conversations with you that last 2, 3, 4 hours. It could still mean nothing. So the conversation piece of it is great, but it's not the end all be all. That just means that she likes you as a friend. Like she could be more interested, but I'm saying that in isolation, like the conversation went well, does not have to mean anything more than she likes you as a potential friend. So other signals that women give: maintained eye contact. And like when she maintained eye contact, but also, and this is going to seem so confusing, but maintained eye contact with a hint of nervousness. Because again, like a lot of women can sit there and listen and hold eye contact with you. I've held eye contact on so many dates with men that I was like, I'm not interested, but you know, I'm already here, so I'm going to be kind and I'm going to hear them out.
Right.
And I hold eye contact with you all night, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm just like being a good listener. So I would say that there needs to be like the tinge of nervousness. So like, yes, she's maintaining eye contact with you, but then if you smile, she's like, what? Like, why are you smiling? You know, that's her giving it away. It might seem very subtle, but like you gave her some kind of look, and now she's like, whoa, what was that? And even though it's a micro moment, it says so much about the macro that's happening. Because if a guy does that I'm not interested in, I'm not going to say anything. Like, I'm not pointing that out. I'm not nervous. Like, I'm good. So that's the one thing that, women will do. Another thing is, like, does she try to move closer to you? Like, on a date, I think when I've actually seen this before, like, two people come into a date and they're pretty neutral. So they're sitting like a neutral space between each other. If she likes him, she'll probably like move a little closer, but they kind of start out where they are and then they gradually get further away. And if you look at their body language, she's gradually leaning back and he's gradually leaning forward. And it's because she's clearly not interested and he's clearly interested. So, like, what happens with body language? Because if a woman's interested, she'll start to move closer to you. She'll make your job a little easier. She'll start to like scoot in her chair. She'll start to like really lean in. She'll start to, she'll like literally physically make herself more accessible to you. So if you start to see the opposite happen, it probably means that she's decided that she doesn't really want a lot happening. Because if you constantly like move, and you should inch in a little closer. That is a natural way to progress a date, is like try to inch in a little closer and see what happens. And if that doesn't seem to be reciprocated and she actually starts to lean back, then okay, I don't really think she actually wants to be touched. And the final is feet are the most honest part of the body. A lot of people think it's the eyes. It's actually the feet. Feet say a lot. So when in doubt, if nothing else, just look at her feet. If her feet are pointed away from you, probably not feeling it too much. We usually point our feet in the direction that we intend to go in. So like if her feet are kind of pointed toward the exit, or they're pointed toward a bathroom, or just literally just not pointing in your direction, and they're kind of further away from you, then she's probably just not that interested.
Flipping it on the head there. It's not all about the eyes, the windows to the soul. Because like you said, a lot of women are used to just, eye contact, I'm listening, but they're not there. Or you've already been friend zoned.
Yeah. Like, I've had people have conversations with me before, admittedly. I'm in a whole other planet, but I'm maintaining perfect eye contact.
Totally. It's a skill. So is there any hope also for men who have been friend zoned but really into the woman and still want to make it sexual, romantic? Is there any hope once you're in the friend zone, the dreaded friend zone?
I definitely think there's hope. Definitely. Yeah. Because first of all, she already trusts you. So you already have a good foundation. If you're friends, you probably are compatible in a lot of ways. So the trick is, like, can you distinguish yourself as someone that she could have sexual interest in? Because when you're just friends, for the most part, especially if she chose that you be friends and you wanted more in the beginning, she's basically telling you, I don't see you as a sexual interest. I like you otherwise, but that piece is not there for me. So that could be because of how you look. It could be because of how you speak. There's so many different reasons why men get friend zoned. That could be because your timing was just kind of off and someone else kind of came in and swooped her off her feet. So there's multiple reasons friend zoned. But if you are working on your 3 F's, your fitness, your finances, your friendships, like, and you have that going for you, you are someone who is attractive in all those areas and you're constantly working to better yourself, but maybe you just didn't play it the right way and she didn't see you as a potential, sexual interest, you still can get out of that situation by changing the way that you interact with her. So by being a little more bold, being a little more direct, being less available itself, which is going to sound a little harsh, but the problem is, like, if you are her venting zone, every time things don't go well with other men, you're kind of souring that dynamic, and it's hard for her to like flip that switch and be like, oh wait, no, now you're someone I'm looking at in that way. So it's tough because you want to hear her out and you want to be supportive, but I actually have a client recently who did this really well, because he used to always be the shoulder to cry on, and he got tired of it. He was just tired of being the shoulder to cry on. Like, I actually like these women, and then they end up kind of just using me as someone to vent to. So he started really like holding his masculine frame again, and he started really being someone that has good boundaries, where he would hear them out and he'd be like, I don't know what to say. You already knew this about this man. You've been telling you the same thing for years now. Not being disrespectful, nothing, just being like, all right, well, I'm sorry to hear you're going through that. What else is going on in your life? Like, literally just not being the person that she can utilize as a therapist anymore. And because of that, started to change the dynamic, because she started to see like, oh, I can't just like vent to him anymore. He has boundaries. He's gonna like redirect me to go do that somewhere else. And when you do that, you now start to increase your chances of being seen as someone of potential romantic interest.
Totally. That one is the clincher right there. It's like, stop being an emotional doormat, stop being your therapist, set boundaries, and be unavailable, which means you have a strong frame. Period.
Exactly.
That's it. And I think a lot of men have been conditioned to do the opposite, right? Like, oh, the more I'm available and the more we talk, the better my chances are, which is just simply not the case.
Yeah, that's a special scenario where you want to be emotionally unavailable.
Right.
Because your availability should have value. Like, it should be valuable to access you. And if it's not valuable to access you, then it's not special. And you will be used as a punching board. You will be used as an emotional doormat. And it's not until your time is sacred and your energy and attention are sacred that women start to treat it that way.
Right. And this is how high value men signal their value. It's like, hey, like, they have other stuff going on, a lot probably, especially the 3F system, which I love that you have that. So their time's valuable, and they're going to signal its availability, which is what women crave, because they can sense, oh, wow, he's got a really strong frame. I want to be part of that. So this is where, this stuff, Elsa, it's so fascinating to me how, they teach us how to do all kinds of stuff in school and university, but there's no education on mating, dating, or sexuality.
I know.
It's crazy. So thank God for entrepreneurs and coaches, right?
It's like literally what we need to continue the species, but you'll figure it out somehow.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Learn all about tax law and organic chemistry, but yeah, the dating thing that your ancestors have done for millions of years, yeah, just figure that one out on your own. We're not going to talk about it. It's kind of crazy. I suspect that's because a lot of folks still don't have it figured out millions of years later, which, hey, awesome. Let's start now, and let's use the wisdom of our ancestors, but let's also adapt to a super modern, technologically ultra connected world. And that's kind of the rub there. So amazing that you're doing this work. I learned a lot here, and I know a lot of folks learned a lot. Nobody freak out. This is going to be posted, so you can come back and rewatch this, because there's some definite thought bombs in here, especially for the gentlemen out there. Elsa, if someone wants to work with you or reach out to you, where should they go besides here on Instagram, or what should they look out for?
Yeah, holler at me at hello@elsamorick.com. So Elsa Morick is Elsa, ELSA MORECK. My email is also on my Instagram. I'm not the best at answering DMs, because I do get quite a few every day. So if you really want to get my attention, email me. Or you can fill out a coaching application. I actually have a wait list right now, but you can fill out a coaching application, and you're way more likely to hear from me if you go that route than just sending me a DM. But this was a great conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So having a wait list is good. That means there's more men out there who are ready to take this seriously and show up in their best possible way to be an amazing partner to women. So this is good news for the women watching as well. That also is successful.
So many amazing men out there. When I first started my career as a dating coach for women, I always had women ask me, why aren't the men doing this work? I'm so tired. Like, why is it always on us? Why is it always on us? Admittedly, I started to believe them. because, you know, I was only seeing the female side of things. So I was working all these women and I'm like, I don't know, maybe you're right. And then I switched over to men and I was like, holy shit, there are so many men who want to work on this. Like I get requests every single day from men who like are just as emotional and thoughtful and intentional as women are to work on this area of their life.
Right. Yeah, ladies, the story that there are no good men is simply not true. And also here is proof. So thank you so much for this amazing time together. I learned a ton. This was amazing. Make sure you go follow her if you are just tuning in, and share this video and just post it, tag somebody who could get a lot from it, because there are some gold and nuggets in here. Also have an amazing day over there in Miami.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. I'll see
Ciao.
you. Ciao.